photo was a lie. That happy baby in the high chair wasn't celebrating a birthday at all. It was taken the day I almost died. My parents never told me about the incident. They buried it, along with the truth of what happened in our old house. The house had a smell they could never explain. A scent of damp earth and something sweetly metallic, like old pennies, that clung to the nursery. And at night, from my crib, I would hear it. Not a cry, but a low, wet scratching coming from inside the wall. For 24 years, I lived with a smiling ghost in a family album, a cheerful lie masking a hunger that lived in the walls. This is the story of what was really in the room with me, and why, after all this time, it wants the picture back. I was wrong. This photo is a crime scene. The air grew heavy with the scent of old paper and something faintly metallic. His breath hitched, fingers turning cold and numb against the album's cover. Then, in one sharp motion, he slammed it shut. A close-up of a woman's terrified eyes, the pupils dilating with primal fear. The headline, "Infant Abducted from Hospital," swims into focus, the ink seeming to bleed. My family, the only family I've ever known, has been concealing the proof in plain sight, woven into our happiest memories. My name is Chloe. I grew up in that red brick house on Maple Drive with my parents, Linda and Robert Miller, and my older brother, Jake. We were the picture-perfect family. Weekend soccer games, backyard barbecues where Dad always called me Princess. Mom was a pediatric nurse, her hands always gentle, her voice a soft hum of comfort. Dad was a quiet, dependable project manager, the steady anchor in our seemingly perfect world. They adored me, perhaps too much, but there were inconsistencies. Small stories that frayed at the edges. The scent of old paper and forgotten perfume clung to their tails. A quiet, gnawing suspicion began to take root. Whenever I'd ask about her pregnancy with me, Mom would grow flustered, her answers vague and hurried. She could never recall which hospital I was born in, claiming those months were just a blur. And the baby photos began abruptly at 9 months old, not a single newborn image among them. That gap in the record, that missing beginning, settled in the room like a cold, unspoken weight. Whenever I'd press him, Dad would chuckle dismissively. "The camera just stopped working," or "We were completely exhausted." It felt odd, a persistent low-grade unease that clung to the memory like a faint, sour smell. It wasn't terrifying, not yet. That came years later, on my wedding day. The bridal suite should have been filled with joy, but instead I found my mother, Linda, weeping. These weren't happy tears. They were deep, gut-wrenching sobs that seemed to come from a place of profound dread. The air in the room felt thick and heavy, as if absorbing her despair. Her crying had a raw, desperate quality that made my own breath catch in my throat. I held her close, thinking this was just an emotional moment. Then her grip tightened, her nails digging into my skin like talons. The air grew thick with the scent of iron and something faintly sweet, like decay. Her voice came ragged, raw with emotion, and her words froze the very air in my lungs. "Linda, I'm so sorry. I just love you so much. You have to know, we just wanted you so much." It was the way she said it, not a statement, but a confession. After the honeymoon, that feeling clung to me like a damp, sour smell I couldn't wash off. That's when I went to the attic. The attic's single bulb flickered to life, casting jagged shadows across forgotten boxes. My fingers brushed the faded floral pattern of the Baby Chloe box, a familiar sight I'd ignored for years. But this time, the air carried the scent of old paper and something faintly metallic, like dried ink or rust. This wasn't a search for memories. It was an excavation. I was hunting for evidence when I uncovered the official-looking documents first, a hastily notarized certificate of adoption with several lines typed over. The dates were smudged, as if deliberately obscured. And then I pulled out the first photo album. The leather cover felt cold and damp to the touch, releasing a faint scent of mildew and forgotten years. The photo was captioned, "My first birthday," quote, but the trees behind little Chloe were skeletal and bare. A winter scene, stark and cold, filled the frame. Yet my birthday falls in the heat of July. The contradiction wasn't just wrong. It felt adhesive, clinging to the mind with a damp, wrong weight. My heart began to hammer against my ribs. I flipped through the pages faster, my fingers trembling. "First beach trip," the caption declared, but the photo showed me bundled in a thick, woolen sweater. "Meeting Santa." Yet my face in that picture was rounder, my hair several shades darker than in the birthday photo just pages before. The air in the room grew thick and stale, carrying the faint, metallic scent of old ink and something else, something rotten. Chloe's voice, ragged with exertion, broke the stillness. "It wasn't one album," she whispered, the words laced with a tremor. "It was 3. The air grew heavy, thick with the scent of old paper and something faintly metallic, and the baby in them. A pause, filled only by the faint crackle of imagined static. Wasn't the same baby. The features, they subtly shifted. My gaze traced the familiar photo album's pages, but my mind refused to accept what my eyes saw. The shape of the eyes was wrong. The curve of the smile was alien. This wasn't a record of my childhood. It was a gallery of strangers. At my kitchen table, I spread the photo albums wide, my phone's magnifier revealing details I'd never noticed. The air smelled faintly of aged paper and something metallic, like old coins or dried blood. Every scratch on a negative, every blurred face in the background, felt like a piece of evidence in a case I didn't know I was part of. In that moment, surrounded by my own history, I became a detective in a mystery where I was both the investigator and the evidence. I scanned and enlarged the photos, my fingers trembling slightly. In the corner of my first birthday, a blurred newspaper lay on a bench, almost hidden. Hours passed as I enhanced the image, the ozone scent of old electronics filling the air. Finally, the date materialized. October 12th. 2 years before my supposed birth. In another, a car's license plate was visible, from a state we never called home. CHLOE. The hospital photo was the worst. The cold, glossy paper felt wrong in my hands. Too sticky, too real. A low, electrical hum filled the room, masking a whisper I couldn't quite decipher. The text read, "Coming home." Mom stood there in her hospital gown, beaming, cradling a newborn. My focus shifted, drawn to the hospital ID bracelet on the baby's tiny wrist. The name printed there wasn't Miller. It read, "Baby Girl Rodriguez." A distant door groaned open. Chloe slammed her laptop shut, her fingers trembling against the cool metal. I confronted them, placing the photo albums on their immaculate coffee table. The stillness that followed was more unnerving than any outburst could have been. On camera, Chloe's reenactment voice broke the quiet. These children. Only the faint scent of old paper and dust hung in the air where a response should have been. Her father, Robert, crumbled inward, the weight of memory pressing him into the chair. His voice, a defeated whisper, finally confessed the truth. We couldn't have children. The wait list stretched a decade. We were desperate. Linda's memory, laced with tears, followed. We just wanted a family. Then a man, an agency, promised they could fast-track it. They gave us you, and they gave us the album. They said to use the pictures, to paste your face over them when you got new ones, to make the story seamless. We were supposed to get new pictures of you as you grew. Narrator. Paste my face over them? The words hung in the heavy, still air. My entire childhood. A carefully crafted collage. A complete forgery. CHLOE. Where did I actually come from? Who am I? Robert's eyes locked with Linda's. A silent, heavy exchange of shared, unspoken dread. Robert. We don't know. Linda. The agency. It was all a front.
The man vanished without a trace, his paperwork a hollow fabrication.
We sensed the deception within that first year. A creeping wrongness in the stale air, the metallic scent of secrets left to rust. But by then, the lie had settled deep, a damp weight in our chests. You were already bound to us, a silent prisoner in a web we couldn't unravel. You were our Chloe. The terror of police taking you away was a constant, suffocating presence in our home. So we maintained the fiction, each new photograph deepening the deception like layers of dust. They weren't monsters, just parents trapped in a labyrinth of their own making, with walls built from love and lies. They were a desperate, heartbroken couple who made a monstrous choice, and they spent every day since building a prison of love around me to protect their secret. I look at my mother's face in my wedding photo now. Those weren't tears of joy, they were tears of guilt. A final, silent scream before she handed me a future built on a stolen past. The air in the room grew thick with the scent of old paper and something metallic, like fear. My breath hitched as the weight of her confession settled in the damp, still space between us. Now the police are involved. My DNA is in a dozen databases. Somewhere, a family has spent 24 years wondering what happened to their infant in the park, or their newborn in the hospital. And I sit here, in a house that isn't my home, loved by parents who aren't mine. I'm staring at a photograph of a child who isn't me. So I have to ask you this. When you look at your own baby pictures, how well do you really know the story behind them? And how far would you go to have the family you always wanted? The air in the room grew thick with the scent of old paper, and something faintly metallic, a low, rhythmic scratching echoed from behind the walls. A sound like nails on plaster. The photograph in your hand felt unnaturally cold and damp, like morning frost on a grave. Then, the image of that innocent face dissolved into the encroaching dark, taking its final secret with it.